Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the Frozen Frontier. How are you guys all doing today?
Doing well.
Yep.
Yeah, pretty good.
Pretty sleepy.
As you can see, we did not have a recap, so we're going to do our best recap right now.
All right.
Recapping before banter? Is that how this usually
Recapping
works?
before the banter, yeah.
Okay. So, after successfully searching through the King's Tomb in southern Caledonia. Wait.
Just let him do it. Just let him do it. He can make up his own history.
Let's let him go for it. Let's see what happens.
That's not the recap that I'm looking at.
Let's see where it goes
Stick
with
to the
it.
script, man. Okay, do your thing.
I'm reading around the lines, all right. All right. So after successfully searching the King's Tomb and finding a disappointing haul, the party left the caves, only to be at somewhat of a loss as to what to do next. Discussions went back and forth, and it was decided to try and find this temple on top of the mountains that the giants had maybe alluded to. A temple to Nerul, I think, was what we were told. So Grimes started searching around the cliffs, looking for a way up there. Turned out there's no easy way up. So it was down to us to just straight up climb. So the next day, Grimes sets off, climbs up there, sets a little rope down. We all climb up the side of the cliff to find the Temple of Nerul built into the side of the mountain. It was huge, clearly made by giants, had what maybe at one time would have been beautiful inscriptions and engravings on there, but lost to the elements over many years. From the top of this vantage point, we looked across the mountain range to see a sleeping dragon, which we presumed to be Snowflake. Deciding to ignore that, we carried on forward, fought some snow elementals, and when we get to the temple, doesn't seem to be anyone there. It wasn't really so much a temple as a shrine. There's just like a big statue there. But in the snow, hidden seems to be a few giants asleep, debating on the best action, where we wake up one of the giants and find out that his name's Clifford. After some discussions with Clifford, he seems as amenable as the other giants that we'd met recently. He decided to give us a lift to see his king, Gordoth the Wise. So we all climb atop Clifford's strong shoulders and go on a journey across the cliffs while we leave Nimrod in charge of the dogs and the sled back at the base of the mountain. A journey took, Neal, maybe about a day?
Day and a half.
A day and a half traveling across the mountains until we eventually came to Gordoth the Wise's home, which I'm now failing to remember exactly how it was described. But, I'm sure it was...
Does someone else want to pop in?
I think he's doing a wonderful job.
Yeah, Nick is doing great.
All right, so we get there, and then we went into this palace of Gordoth the Wise. Palace might be a bit too grand of a word, but there was all sort of carvings on the walls just depicting the history of the giants and the struggles that they'd gone through. Eventually, we go through this cavernous tunnel to come to a throne with Gordoth sitting there with a huge weapon of some description. It was large and scary, though. And then we just basically talked to Gordoth for, half a day? We discussed the history of the giants, the history of Caledonia, the Scrags, the Druids, the Elves. So many matters of importance. We talked about the forest, the evil forest of acid blood trees. Turns out it's some sort of portal. The details on that, you probably have to go back and watch the episode, but I think the main takeaways were that the Scrags actually might have more of the treasure than the dragons, and that the giants aren't really keen on helping us fight the dragons. They kind of got a bit of an uneasy peace going on, and they'd rather just leave it well enough alone. So after having discovered a lot more about the history of Caledonia, Clifford, good guy, gave us a lift back to the shrine of Nerul, went down. Nimrod hadn't eaten any of the dogs. No one had starved, and we headed north across the river. We spotted some gnolls along the way in that little forest where they seem to live, but I think we've all had enough of gnolls at this point, so we just sort of carried on past the gnolls to come back to Swampside, to an interesting site. The little village that we've constructed there is overrun with new arrivals, slaves, academics, people with books and scrolls, and as we walk into camp, I get handed a letter. What is in the letter? Who ordered the slaves? Find out now on Frozen Frontier.
Oh, good job, Nick. Well done.
All right. Thanks.
I think that was worth like 1,000 XP, right?
I think so.
Just for Nick, though.
Great. Yeah,
yeah.
good. We need our fire pumped. We gotta pump it.
Yeah. He's like 8,000 ahead of me anyways. What is another 1,000?
We're a long way from level 8, so it's not really
It's your fault for not taking that 16.
So, should I read the letter, Neal, since we're on
Yeah.
that?
Why don't we
All
do
right.
some letter reading?
Okay, so William strides into the fort, flaming sword at his side, dragon scale armor on his chest, gets handed a letter, and it says, to Captain Marshall, an academic from Bontheris has learned that the castle in the capital of Caldonia was home to a great underground library. The same academic has gained permission from the Queen to uncover the lost library and the works therein. The works recovered will be the property of the reclusive academic and will be delivered to him after the Crown has sorted through the material to make what copies we desire. Arriving with this letter should be a group of scholars and slaves. The scholars are employed by the academic, while the slaves have been provided by the Crown to excavate the capital. Captain Hughes has received a similar letter detailing her assignments to oversee the excavation and manage the slave population. It is the opinion of the Crown that the soldiers under her command have provided very little value to your expedition and can now be freely assigned to other duties of greater value. Once the war is over, which should be in a few months' time, the discovered iron mine will be put to good use. At present, the supplies and manpower required to operate the mine are tied up elsewhere. Even if we were to push the mine into production right away, we would not be reaping the rewards until after the war is over. Seeing as the war's end is near, you should start making plans for a return home. Once you've returned home, the newly minted Caledonian Trading Company will oversee the scavenging and recovery of wealth from the Southlands, meaning there is little reason for you to continue risking your life. Instead of facing down death by raiding tombs yourself, your time would be better served looking for leads that my company can then do the dangerous work of salvaging. Speaking of your return, have your men thought of last names, crests, and mottos for their families? I would like to have scrolls of pedigree made up for them before they return to the mainland. If they cannot be bothered with such details, I will fill in the details for them. The enclosed necklace was made with love by your wife with the hopes that you should wear it to remember her by. Gods be with you, your father-in-law, Richard. There you go.
Yep. So, you guys walk in, you get handed this letter, there's all these slaves standing around, all these academics standing around. You get a quick head count. There's 30 slaves and 6 scholars. All the scholars are human. The slaves are mostly human, with 3 dwarves and 2 halflings tossed in there as well. The other thing of note is that there is a big-ass ballista sitting in the very front entrance of the fort, just inside the gates, and there are ballistas on 3 of the 4 corners as well.
We told Hughes about the ballista idea, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, it was our engineer. We hired an engineer, right? I think.
Yeah, I think we were talking to Hughes about it,
We
and
hired an
she.
engineer because Hughes is already an engineer.
Oh yeah, that was it.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, I say to the party, looking at the ballista, maybe it's worth telling Hughes that we shouldn't shoot the giants on sight if we see them.
Sure.
Weren't we also warned that the juvenile giants may,
Be a bit more hostile.
yeah.
Just tell them to keep their distance and then shoot if they don't listen.
Yeah, I guess that makes sense.
So are all these new people inside the temple? Or
Yes.
is this...
They are huddled inside the temple. The slaves are not that warmly dressed. They definitely don't have the same sort of adventuring gear you have. They have, like, maybe an extra heavy cloak and some gloves and some, like, shoes, nice shoes. But their clothes are not fantastic. They have 16 warmth points for the record.
Oh, no.
Yeah.
I think that's like what I have.
That's actually pretty good.
By my count,
like-
you have 23, Greg, from your lost character sheet.
All
But
right.
that could be an old number. It might be up or down from there. I don't really know.
All right, 23.
Better than a slave.
So what is their reaction? What is their reaction to seeing us?
Well,
They
they
step
look
back and give
over,
us a wide
they're a little
berth?
surprised, and then Ferris peels around the corner, and they start scrambling backwards to get out of the way. They go behind that big statue in the middle with the panels that go around it, and that's when Hughes kind of comes over up to William and says, Captain William, can we speak?
I look around. Yes, it seems much has changed.
Yeah. The two of you fuck off to go have a conversation.
Yeah, I think. Yeah, never mind. Grimes grumbles to himself. Who's this riffraff? And like looks around at the slaves and the scholars.
One of the scholars seems to be the lead guy. He's like huddled the 5 other scholars with him and is chatting. The lead scholar is tallish and thinnish with spectacles, very straight, stiff back, and has a book in his hand with an ink pen, and he's making some notes. I guess as you walk around, you'll notice there's a second heavy ballista behind the temple as well. And there is a 4th light ballista outside that is like near the river and has a harpoon attached to it instead of a regular bolt.
These little townspeople, they did the harpoon before the captain did. You'll be heartbroken.
So, non-Williams, do you have anything you'd like to do?
I think Grimes is peering over the academic's shoulder, the one who was like taking the notes. It's like, what you writing down there?
The academic stop and kind of look back at you. I'm doing a head count to make sure everyone's here. You must be the one they call Marion, right?
I look. It's Grimes.
Oh, I see.
Where are you getting your? I'm looking at his notes as if he's.
It's just gibberish to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And who are you?
I am Rupert.
Rupert.
I am.
I extend a hand and look around, trying to like size them up. I don't know. Grimes doesn't have a heraldry or anything. He never went to school. I don't know if I can tell by their like draperies or crests who's in charge here.
He pulls off a fur-lined glove, very excited, and eagerly shakes your hand.
I don't remove my glove to shake his hand, I don't think.
Yeah.
Right. I'll figure things out once he gets used to the cold. Can I like guess who's in charge of these?
Rupert is definitely in charge.
Okay, he has the most tassels on his robe, or
yeah, and the least hair up top and the most tassels. You know,
I see.
In the thickest classes.
Is he the tall one?
Yes. You've been to the capital, right? How is it?
The castle.
Yes.
A spectacular ruin.
Wonderful. Are you excited to dig?
I look over to the slaves. I'm excited to supervise.
Well, that'll do fine. That'll do fine.
Capital, the castle, you say?
Yes, the castle of the capital of the country.
Why are you? What are you doing here?
I'm here to recover the lost books, the lost library of the capital. There's so much knowledge down in there that has been, well, just waiting for us to find it. We've got some good workers captured in war, and we even brought along a couple of halflings and dwarves in case there are hard to reach places.
Do I recall seeing a library in the capital at all? No.
No.
Okay. Yes, I bet books would fetch a pretty penny back in the mainland.
You look horrified when you say that.
Alas, so far all we find is this is a dirty book of limericks.
Ooh, may I see it, please?
I look like a Yaramir. This guy's a nerd too.
Ah, excellent. Nerds have to stick together, you know.
Rupert Yaramir.
Ah, yes, the Matavin. Hello. How are you?
I am well.
I think Grimes gets distracted and wanders off to bother someone else.
Is he slow, Grimes?
Oh, you speak quite well. Oh, wonderful. Hello, I am Rupert.
Hello, I am Grimes.
I thought he was Grimes.
You're all Grimes here.
Oh, I see. He pulls out his book again and starts making little notes in the margin.
I want him to introduce himself as Grimes. That's my goal. I want to convince him that everyone here is Grimes.
Sean, do you have anything?
Yeah, I don't know. I think Ferris is kind of just standing around awkwardly. He doesn't really have anyone to associate with. He probably walks up to Yarmir at some point and says, "Have we been stuck on escort duty, Yarmir?"
I do not know what escort duty is, but perhaps it seems that way.
Wonderful. But yeah, I don't think he has anything in particular to do.
Okay.
Just kind of loiters around the courtyard and kind of enjoys watching like every human that walks out just kind of like circle wide around. Like I think he's getting used to the whole Mask of Terror thing. I think it's very fitting, to be honest.
Gives him the privacy he's always wanted.
I actually have renewed terror at the mask because I didn't realize how scary the mask was until I saw it drawn.
Right?
Now I'm like,
pretty good.
Shit, terrifying.
Yeah. All right. So, William, you head back into the private quarters with Captain Hughes. And she motions to a small stool that's been carved near the fireplace that's roaring, and motions for you to sit down while she takes another stool. And says, kind of with a heavy breath, "You were right, William, about the ballista. There's absolutely no reason that we shouldn't be ready to fire upon any giants that come here. They may be able to overwhelm us, but we should be ready. So we've constructed 6, 4 light, 2 heavy, and it should be enough to take down at least 1, if not more, giants if they come this way."
Well, I have news on the giant front. I see that you've done a very good job fortifying the encampment, and I think given our new guests, it's probably worth to have all the fortifications we can. However, I have actually been involved with the giants in my latest trip south, and it seems to be that they're not the savages that maybe they are back on the mainland. They seem quite civilized. They speak our language of sorts. And no, wait, sorry. They don't speak our language. Grimes translates for us, but they
He speaks giant? He speaks frost giant, frozen giant?
I mean, I don't discern the differences, but yeah. I told you I picked a good team.
How the hell does that illiterate lowlife speak giant?
Yeah,
I mean, no offense, but
between you and me, I think there's something going on there. He's rather coy about the whole thing, but yes, he does speak in an inordinate amount of languages. That he said that he had a dwarven girlfriend at one point, or a Matavan girlfriend, and that's how he spoke Matavan. But I doubt that he went out with any frost giants, so I'm not really sure. I think maybe.
All right. Well,
I don't know. He seems he doesn't want to talk about it. I think some of these things are probably better left alone.
fine.
But anyway, with the giants, they know where we are, and as far as the natives of this land go, they're probably the closest thing that we could call friends. So if you do see a giant, probably hold off shooting on it right away. I'm told that the juveniles can be boisterous, so if they get a bit close, maybe fire a warning shot or two, and be prepared to fight, of course, if they attacked. But I think hopefully that particular danger could be avoided.
She lets out kind of a long, slow sigh and gives you a deadpan look and says, "So after months of you badgering me to make a ballista,
Yes.
we finally spend the last 6 weeks making 6 of them, only for you to come back and tell us that we probably shouldn't use them."
Well, that's true. Maybe not on the giants, but there's other threats here.
Yeah, tell me about it. We lost a few men last week to those things that popped out of the water and shape changed into long-armed gnolls and ripped a few of them to shreds.
Oh yeah, we ran into one of those. I wasn't sure if that was just a one-off.
No.
I'm not sure what they are. Were seals? I mean, who knows? But
Something. They reek of werewolves.
there's a greater threat here, and I feel like we may have misjudged the situation with regards to the treasure. Here, look, and do you recall that in the temple there's the... That's right, Neal, that's here, right? The plaque showing the Scrags and the battles with humans, yeah. Those depictions in the temple of the war the humans fought against these creatures that came from the trees. Well, we ran into one of them.
They're still alive.
It was a powerful magic user. Summoned all sorts of creatures and very nearly killed us all. It was a close run thing. And the giants informed me that they're still around and that perhaps these creatures, we've been calling them Scrags, that they are the holders of the majority of the kingdom's lost wealth rather than the dragons.
I just received a letter with the understanding that you would be stopping your treasure hunting and overseeing construction.
Well, I've only just read this letter, and it seems my father-in-law has been busy back at home.
Is he indeed? What is this about his own trading company that is going to be coming in and taking over for us?
I don't know. I mean, I assume the success of the expedition has led him to great wealth back at home, and perhaps that wealth has allowed him to forge his own firm. But look, I've got concerns. I roll out my map, and I show this. I don't have any real reason to believe this, but I show to where this yellow circle is that I've written over here, where I've got bad. The giants said that the Scrags are often found in this area. It could be a coincidence, but do you see this passage here through the rocks into the mountains? Well, if they do live deep within the mountains, it seems like that might be the way in. I'm worried that if my father-in-law sends a troop of ordinary soldiers down there, that they'll be slaughtered. And
she nods her head.
I have other reasons to wish to investigate this personally. So I think that I assume that whoever this academic is that's funding this excavation of the capital, will you be escorting the troops to the capital, or was that something you were hoping that I would do?
She reaches down and grabs a wineskin from her side, takes a long swig, and you realize that her teeth are already a little purple stained, even before she takes this, and says to you, I have been reduced from commander to jailer. Apparently I'm supposed to haul these slaves and academics to the capital, set up a fort there, and keep an eye on the prisoners while they excavate some long-lost, forgotten, buried library, probably already ruined or something.
The capital's an interesting place. There's, I'm sure there's many secrets there left to discover, and whilst you're there, you may as well explore yourself. But who will man Swampside?
Someone. I have to decide.
Well, I'm planning to head back down south and explore this passageway. So perhaps I will accompany you on your trip there. When are you planning to leave?
Soon. A few days, maybe. I was planning on giving these people a chance to acclimate to the environment before sending them off to their deaths. But there is a more pressing issue I have for you.
Oh, yeah?
Here in Swampside, we have many trees, and there's lots of fuel around. What's it like at the capital?
That's a good point. Yeah, not so. There are trees along the southern banks of the river, but not too many. However, there are a lot of old wooden buildings that could be used for firewood.
I may need you to find us a source of wood if there's not enough in the capital already, or coal if you could find it, or some sort of fuel if we're going to be setting up a camp with, what is this, 60 folk? It'll be... We're going to have to have multiple camps a fort, probably some outposts. Then there'll be the area where people are excavating, and we'll need fires burning around them constantly because they'll be freezing off and on. We're going to be needing probably 10 times as much wood as we have now, or coal would be better. And hauling our own coal supplies up there is going to be probably impossible. I've been having a platoon start breaking up the ice flows in the river with one of the ballistas. She kind of motions to the river, yanking the bits that are stuck free so that maybe we can get a boat traveling up there.
Yeah, I think that would be ideal also because food. Well,
Yes.
How will you be getting food? Yeah.
We'll have to be making trips, hauling it by sled.
Well, the first thing that I would say, and I refer back to the map, is I would make all journeys on the western banks of the river. Do you see this? And I point out the forest, the Deadwood Forest.
The spooky woods, right?
That's spooky is underselling it. I would not send anyone in there. It's the Caldonians built a wall around it for a reason. The trees come to life. They rain acid down on anyone who enters into the forest. And I'm told by the giants that it's the center of the forest is some sort of magical gateway for the Scrags. So I think it's best left well alone. However, the western bank of the river comes with its own issues. This forest here, and I'd set the one with the gnolls. It's inhabited by gnolls. We've seen them observing us as we travel south. I wouldn't be surprised if maybe not the initial parties heading down south were to be attacked, but any smaller parties carrying food or wood back or to front swamp side may be ambushed by gnolls. It's possibly worth us going there ahead of time and trying to broker some sort of a ceasefire with them, or my dealings with gnolls have not been so successful in that regard in the past.
She taps this forest on the map and says, what about this one?
I think it's safe. I haven't explored it thoroughly, but yeah, I think that's probably your best source of wood. It's the closest to the capital. When we head down there, there is some trees on the southern banks of the river that could serve to provide fuel in the short term. When we get down there, I could have my party go and explore that forest and ensure that it's safe for
Good.
deforestation.
I would appreciate that. She gives a long sigh and kicks her feet up on a small... I guess she's on a stool, so she can't kick her feet up, but takes a lean back against a wall and says, well, anything else?
Well, I don't know. I mean, my letter talks about going home and heading back to the mainland. Do you have such hopes for yourself, or do you think you're here for longer?
She shakes her head. I'll probably be here until the trading company replaces me, and maybe then asked to stay on a little longer. I don't know. I'm not super excited about it.
You don't want to go home?
Don't want to stay here. This is not what I signed up for, William.
Oh, I see what you mean. Yeah, you're not excited about staying here. Well,
I'm not excited about being a jailer. I didn't join the army and become an officer to watch over slaves.
Yeah, I can see that. Well, I don't know. If you have faith in your lieutenants, you could always accompany me down to check out the Scrags. I could do the extra sword.
She shakes her head. No, someone needs to keep an eye. Someone needs to be responsible.
The kingdom respects your work, Hughes, and I give her like a pat on the shoulder and say, "Let's enjoy your last few days at camp before we make south."
She grumbles and mutters something about about Richard that you can't quite hear, and takes another swig of her wine.
I wonder silently to myself whether she's being made a baron when we get back to the mainland. And I'll leave her encampment, and I'll go and find the rest of the party.
You find the rest of the party, who has been gathered by Rupert, the head scholar. Even Ferris, he actually approaches you kind of excitedly when he sees your horrific mask. More like a curiosity. You can see the pure terror on his face, but it's still like, oh my god, this is the half-elf. What the hell is this thing? And like excited to go see what the hell's up.
Yeah, I don't think Ferris speaks to him. I think he just kind of like gazes back into his eyes with this face of pure
Burning
terror.
flames.
Yeah. I don't like Rupert.
I think Grimes is excitedly telling Rupert tales of our adventure.
Oh, nice. Rupert is absorbing them readily, and
Yeah.
eventually.
Yeah, the mask of horror was once stuck on the face of a fearsome bone dragon. I don't know, I tell him how we slew it.
Fantastic.
The,
Wonderful.
The greedy elf tried to steal its power for himself and got the mask stuck.
Oh, a horrific tale. Did you get any samples from the bone? Did you call
It's
it a
right-
dragon?
It's right there, and I point to Ferris's face. Be careful, he bites.
Let's see. Oh, Captain William. Good.
Yeah, the
good
mask
that
chomps a little bit as he says that.
And you would be?
I am
embracing this.
Rupert. I am the head scholar of our little expedition. And,
Nice to meet you, Rupert. I shake his hand.
He takes off his gloves and shakes your hand. Can I say it's a real pleasure to meet you?
Is it now?
Yes.
Well, I appreciate that, Rupert. Are you from Druckus?
Yes, I am. Yes. Can I show you something?
Of course.
He pulls out a scrap of paper on which part of a map has been copied, and that part of the map looks a lot like Caledonia. It looks like a section of the mountain range in the southeast, and on it are some markings. And there's a little bit of text written in Dracissian that says Scrag Tunnel. Right. Whoops, that did not bring us all over here. Right over there.
Scrag Tunnel.
Yeah, it's marked like right over here-ish.
Okay.
Yeah.
Where did you find this map?
This was recovered by my employer and translated by myself, and then copied over by one of our scribes.
Recovered from where?
I don't actually know.
In
Was not-
Druckus or?
I couldn't tell you. I was not privy to the recovery, the archaeology mission on this. Just brought in as a translator and scholar. It took many painstaking hours to translate the texts from Caledonian to Old Dracissian to Modern Dracissian. Quite difficult, especially the word scrag. In fact, we didn't know what it was until we got the notes that had been sent back by Captain Hughes. Good woman, little stiff.
She can be. Yeah, it's cold here. It'll make anyone stiff.
I do get that. Yes.
Well,
But-
this is interesting.
Anyway, this is hopefully a prime research area. I don't know if you're going in that direction, but if you do, could you swing by and poke your head in and see what it is?
Swing
Yes.
by and poke our head in a scrag hole?
Yes, that would be wonderful. Thank you.
Only if you come with us.
I believe I have duties elsewhere in the capital.
I rub him on the head. I'm like,
You won't be coming to Scraggle.
but your head is so smooth, it just slide right in that hole.
Do you think it's just
Exactly.
head-sized? I was imagining a proper tunnel fit for wagons with rails and walkways. Do you think it's more of
Caledonian-
a hidey hole?
I think it's more of a metaphorical hole.
Well, look, there's no need to tease the poor man, Grimes.
Caledonian histories speak of the scrags traveling through trees and rocks, leaping from the earth itself.
That seems quite improbable. Just probably old tales from lesser peoples.
If you'd seen
Aren't-
what we'd seen, you wouldn't be saying it was improbable.
Aren't you a wizard or something?
No. I'm a scholar,
Oh.
thank you very much.
What's the difference? I look over to Yarmir.
He reads books. I write them.
I think that's a vast oversimplification, good sir, but yes, somewhat.
Thank you for your insight. We'll certainly check it out. The Scrags are high on our list of places to investigate.
Good.
But our number one concern is making sure that you get to the capital safely and can begin your work.
Is it dangerous?
Caledonia?
Very.
You lot seem to have done well? No?
We're not quite scholars, though. The city itself seems safe enough, but the journey is not safe, and there are all sorts of evil denizens lurking in the outskirts that could feast upon your bones given half a chance. So
Have you ever seen a knoll, Rupert?
There is a stuffed one in the museum in Bontheris that I have spent quite a bit of time examining.
Well, the knolls here are much bigger,
I see.
thicker fur, sharper teeth.
Smell worse.
I don't think a little smell is going to kill anyone, right? I mean...
No.
The smell is from the rotting flesh.
I see.
If you're not careful, you'll be that smell.
Right. Well, jolly good. Keep up the good work, everyone. And he turns and heads out very
Before
proudly.
he turns away from me, I'm gonna grab him by the shoulder.
Yes?
And I'm weak as shit, so even if I grab him really strongly, it's probably a weak butterfly landing on his shoulder.
But-
But I intend to put a little steel in my fingers,
Okay.
assuming there's steel to be had.
So he notices, is what you're saying.
He notices
yeah.
and he turns, eager to... Oh, yes? What?
Tell me, good sir. One question before you go.
Of course.
These people in chains.
Yes.
You own them?
No. They are owned by the crown. I am simply... They're simply assisting me, but they are property of the princess or the queen or some noble somewhere. The details are not important.
But they are in your charge.
I suppose so. Or in Captain Hughes's charge, technically.
Okay, be gone.
Right. And he hurries off to the rest of the scholars who are huddled around a fire in a little brazier right in front of the camp.
William, is this what our expedition has been reduced to? Escort duty for a scholar and a number of slaves?
Look, Hughes will be escorting them. We'll just be accompanying them because we're going in the same direction. We have much more important duties. Look, if you all have a few minutes, I'd like to talk about our next objectives. And I'll walk into the temple.
Sure.
We're already in the temple. You take us into the basement or something so we can...
Oh yeah, we'll go down to the
Yes, we have party planning in the haunted basement.
All right, guys, roll for initiative. There's a ghost around the
every
corner.
time we plan.
I think we get rid we covered this whole thing, right? And we got every single ghost in this place, I assume.
I think so, yeah. I
You
think
busted
Yarm's
them
been
all.
looking after them, right?
I mean, we have searched the entire place pretty thoroughly. In worst case scenario, we'll
In a
throw William.
crypt, are you ever sure the Restless Dead are truly gone?
That's true.
I mean,
I mean,
where could the
Grimes
ghost
is still
hide?
pretty young. We can just throw him in front of us.
So I go down and I'll unfurl the map, and I'll say, so things are changing back at home. The people that funded this expedition, my father-in-law, is advancing his designs on the continent, and he's formed a company to come here and carry on our work. So the end is in sight, and for those of you that do wish to return home, I think we're almost there. But there's a few more things that we have to do, and maybe a few optional extras. But the knolls that we see in the forests as we go south down the river? Yeah, well, I know it's been a while since we've killed some gnolls, but I'm worried that if there's supplies going up and down the river to the capital, that the gnolls may look to take an opportunity and attack attack our trading caravans. So I'm thinking that we should pay them a visit and perhaps ensure they toe the line. What do you think?
How wide is the river? I have forgotten in many months since it has been one day since we last Exactly.
It's big. It's really big.
Yeah, it's big.
Like, big enough that I don't think a ship sailing down the middle of it is going to get attacked very easily by a bunch of...
It's something like half a mile.
Yeah, it's something like half a mile.
Oh yeah. Well, I don't think that
So
they
I
plan to go by
suggest-
ship.
I'm sorry, what?
I wasn't sure if they were planning to go by ship because of all the ice.
This is my suggestion, is they have icebreaker, break ice, use ship. That way is much safer than attacking and killing gnolls.
Maybe you're right.
I believe that was the plan.
Yeah, you ever listened to my conversation? I guess that maybe I heard it.
Well, no, the harpoon set up by the river. Why else would you clear it unless you're planning to send a ship through there?
Yeah, maybe it's one thing clearing the ice directly around the camp, but it's another clearing the ice all the way down to the capital.
Your conversation
enough to mount
is
a harpoon on it.
interrupted by a blood-curdling scream from a man somewhere nearby.
So wait, where are we right now?
You're
I
in the
wonder if
temple.
that is a fresh scalp.
Probably tucked into the alcove somewhere.
Yeah, Ferris pulls out Nighthawk and
Yeah.
pulls out the Kopesh, and he starts.
I think being hardened adventurers, we leap to it.
You guys-
We're
Time to go.
throwing weapons and rolling for initiative.
All right, you guys bust out of the temple, and you find one of the scholars backing away and tripping over in the snow, staring at Nimrod, staring at Nimrod and trying to run from the kobold as fast as he can in the snow drifts.
Run as fast as you can. Do not let the little gingerbread man catch you.
Is Nimrod threatening him?
No, Nimrod's sitting on the sled, munching on some snacks, looking at the guy. But there's a spear nearby.
Yeah, I think Ferris is a little bit disappointed and just kind of puts the weapons away.
Yeah, I guess I'll sheath my sword.
William, when you have a moment, can I talk to you in private?
I head to the scholar. You should save that scream for when there's real danger.
Why is no one slaying the monster? Can you all see it? Is it just me? Am I cursed? Is this the curse of Caldonia?
It is indeed. You see monsters everywhere.
Oh, God.
In your sleep, in your dreams, when you eat. Every time.
Oh, calm
your eyes
down.
are
That's
open or closed, you will see monsters here.
that's Nimrod. He's like a pet. He's harmless. In fact, quite helpful at times.
It's a filthy, dirty rat. A white
Don't
walking
worry.
rat.
Give it a couple weeks, you'll be filthy and dirty too. It's far too cold to shower here.
You are too kind to these people. You should have let him think he was cursed.
Oh, the real curse will set in soon enough. Especially once he gets to looting that castle.
True.
Is this Rupert or another one of the
No,
scholars?
this is one of the other scholars.
Yeah.
I think the lot of you reconvene after the interruption.
I'll as we walk back down into the temple, I'll walk aside with Faris. You want to talk?
Is this how you want the expedition to end? Replaced by some company run by your father-in-law?
Well, look, no. I was getting to that. Let's hear me out, and then I'll listen to any grievances you have afterwards. And
Well, hear out this idea first.
okay.
Moving south is a terrible idea. We have a good fortified position here in Swampside. Why would we go south for any reason other than to excavate this castle? But Caldonia is a dangerous place. Hughes has common losses, and she has well-trained and proficient soldiers. So how well do you expect a group of 30 slaves and 6 scholars to fare down in the ice? I mean, a flash blizzard at any moment could appear, and they would never be seen or heard from again. And losing the entire group just like that, do you think your father would want to fund any further non-military expeditions to this continent?
As far as I'm aware, the scholars here and the slaves are the work of an outside actor, not my father's company.
But he's funding this.
No, I think the excavation of the capital is funded by whoever this mystery investor is. And I'm with you that it seems dangerous to send so many men down there untrained, unaware of what real life is like here. But surely it's.
I think it's a I think you might misunderstand. I think it's a fantastic idea that they're not particularly well trained. The less trained they are, the sooner we can give up on this foolish notion and go back to Swampside.
Well,
You understand my meaning here, William? Are we speaking the same language?
The excavation's not our concern, Faris. We'll escort them down there, but only because we'll be traveling in the same direction. And common courtesy suggests that we should do our best to try and help these new people from freezing to death in the ice. But the day-to-day task of managing their work is Hughes's. It's not ours.
You make a good point.
The garrison will be maintained at Swampside, so
you make a good point. Perhaps I should go speak to Captain Hughes.
maybe, yes. But look, hear me out. I think we've other things to discuss, so I go back to the map, and I presume Grimes and
we reconvene. That's fine.
We're standing around.
Maybe you're right about the boat, but those gnolls are always watching us when we walk past there. I don't suppose it would hurt to.
I don't think they've seen us, William, because we usually spot them with the spyglass.
If our past encounters have been any indication, I think the creatures here are much more aware of the goings on in their land than we are.
I'm nervous about leaving a large encampment of gnolls directly between our two bases of operations. I think it's wise to at least address the issue. There's always one waiting at the edge of the forest. If we start up a dialogue, perhaps things will go south. Yaramir will probably warn us that any attempt to converse with these creatures will just end in more bloodshed. But maybe that's the best course. But aside from the gnolls, we need to explore this forest down here. And I point to the forest I was talking to Hughes about and say, just to ensure it's safe for the collection of supplies. But following that, the giants talked of the Scrags being the real source of wealth more than the giant dragons. What do you all say to exploring the area to the southwest that the giants suggested that the Scrags maybe live?
I think that's a terrible idea. We fought one Scrag and almost died. But if this is a colony of Scrags, how well do you think we'd fare?
Well then, firstly, that was one of their spellcasters, so I don't think they're all so powerful.
Aren't they all spellcasters?
I don't think so. The giants said that there's maybe one spellcaster in every, 8, 10, something like that.
And they were using daggers, which the giants referred to as being frustratingly dangerous. You wouldn't expect a dagger to fell a giant, but if their daggers can fell giants, I'm not exactly sure I want to go up against those.
My daggers fell giants.
Yeah, there you go. Well, I'm sure he wouldn't like to fight you either, Grimes. So Faris, what do you suggest then? I mean, would you rather face one of the dragons?
Yaramir and I have been cooking up a plan on that front, actually.
Okay, let's hear it.
Do you want to spoil the surprise, Yaramir? It's up to you. You've come up with
I think it is something that we need to tell the party because it requires a lot of setup.
Do we finally get to use that harpoon he's been lugging around?
No.
Unfortunately, no.
We want to essentially have a bombing run using very large stones and flight. I think we just have a nice little fade out, and this conversation takes place off screen.
All right. Well, it's time to go to our break anyway. So we will see you guys in a few minutes on the other side of our break. Bye-bye.